So we are going to start the question and answer session. This is the first question and answer session, Kalalgoda English Medium Retreat. So probably we may have 2 questions. Many questions, okay. Chandrika is ready with the written questions, so we'll start the session or the discussion with written questions.
Avasara Bhante, we have 5 written questions today. Report number 1, sitting meditation. It was easier to focus on the surrounding sounds than the breath. When focusing on the breath, I would lose focus without realizing and ended up being asleep. Later, focus improved. Kept taking breaks within every few breaths. That's a sitting meditation. She has walking.
Kept taking breaks within few breaths.
Yes, kept taking breaks within every few breaths. Kept taking breaks every few breaths, what she says is, without realizing and end up asleep. Later focus improved. Okay. Walking meditation, more focus than sitting meditation. Alternated between counting steps, identifying left and right.
Identify, I need to.
More focused than sitting meditation.
Right.
Alternated between counting steps, identifying left and right.
Right. Okay, may I know who has written it? Okay, fine. Seems that one thing is, say counting is fine, but as you are getting familiar, you can drop counting and you can be with some more simplified way of monitoring or observing the sensations. Say for example, at the beginning, how long are you counting? Till whatever the number you are counting? Okay, so rather than doing that, probably what you can do is maybe you are counting till 10, again coming back to 1. Again going towards 10, again coming back to 1. So the idea is that this won't be a kind of a counting exercise. You know that when we continue counting for the large numbers, then we have to memorize them and we need to know what is the next number. So that's an additional unnecessary exercise for the mind. So the activity of mindfulness is not into that. So what we are trying to do is very much like calming down the mind, relaxing the mind, and almost keeping it silent even, if it is possible. Because our minds are talking, inner chatter is going on. So what here we are trying to do is, as much as possible, relaxing the mind, calming the mind, but still vigilant, still fully awake what's going on. Kind of a curiosity is there, but with a very relaxed mind, calm mind. And intentionally, as much as possible, less activities. Now, counting is an intentional, some prominent activity that we need to slowly keep aside. And on the other hand, we are maintaining some awareness to each and every step with a very silent, quiet mind. So if we are able to reach that state, so that is good. For that you can use some, certain techniques like counting or what we call as noting, where when left foot is touching, we note it as left. When right foot is touching, we note it as right. So these are very simple techniques so that mind stops wandering. So it's minimize wandering, but each and every step we can maintain attention, we can maintain mindfulness. And even later, once you understood, okay, now less wandering, mind stays with each and every step, then you can even let go of this noting. Noting in the sense, the inner verbalization. And now you are maintaining a very quiet mind, but still that mind fully with the activity. Each and every step you are fully with that activity. Touching, you are with that activity. Then next foot is starting or lifting, you are with that activity. Moving, you are with that activity. Touching again, you are with that activity. Very much like synchronizing your, the awareness or the attention is fairly synchronized with the physical activity. For that, actually, we don't need any words or these kind of names we don't need. But at the beginning it is very difficult without a name, without any kind of a noting, or as you do kind of counting, it may be difficult. But later you may come to a stage where counting is not necessary, labels are not necessary, mind become very quiet, very silent, again attention is there, and each and every step you can be fully mindful. So you can continue and see whether you are able to do it without counting. If you feel that counting is quite helpful to you, maybe you can continue around 10, then again come back to 1. So that it counting till 10 won't be a big issue. So anyone can do that. So it won't be a big burden to the mind. So your mind may easily do that, but later again you are coming back to 1. Again continue, again coming back to 1. Assume that you are in between you get a distraction. Again come back to 1. Kind of a little reminder that I couldn't complete till 10, but in between I was drifted. Again you are coming back to 1. So later you may be able to continue 10, 10, 10 continuously. Then you can even let go of that. No need to count, but each and every step you can be fully mindful. Hope you got the point.
Yeah, thank you, Bhante.
Okay, right.
Report number 2. Avasarai Swamin Wahansa. When doing breathing meditation, I always feel like I force and control my breath. How much I try to avoid doing it, still not doing it correct way. How can I observe my breath without noticing that I am breathing, within brackets, like the way it happens other times when I am not doing meditation? Thero and Saranai.
Now, this is an initial problem that most of us are having, because when we are trying to be aware of breathing, we do kind of an interruption to the breathing process. So typically the body knows how to witness of that process, because body knows how to breathe. So for my duty is simply be aside and look at it. Kind of a third party, another person is breathing. Say you are going to visit a patient, you are going to a hospital to see a patient, and now you see the patient is breathing. It is not that you are breathing, the patient is breathing. Very much like that. So you are a patient now. So let the body be a patient. So you are simply looking at the body like now outsider. So the body is breathing. Natural breathing is going on. So one technique would be, without immediately starting being mindful about breathing, you can simply go through the body. You can do a simple body scanning. Starting from the head here, you go through till the toes, and do a little bit of again and again some body scanning, so that you become somewhat constrained, restricted to the body awareness. So your attention is fairly now within the frame of the body, so that distractions are less, but still you are not recognizing breathing, rather kind of body scanning. Various sensations are there, you are not simply going through up and down, and later in a very gentle way you can see how breathing is now happening, because at that time maybe less distractions, mind becomes somewhat tamed, and as a result of that it may be easier for you to recognize breathing. Sometimes when you are immediately trying to recognize breathing, may be difficult, because breathing itself is a subtle process, and you are going through still many distractions, so you are in a way kind of a war between distractions and the primary object, the breathing. So it would be a little difficult. So one possibility is, so you, rather than immediately trying to recognize breathing, say you are practicing say the body scanning, going from the top and to the end, again from the bottom to the top to bottom. So likewise, a little bit of calming down yourself, recognizing various sensations, and slowly then looking at the breath. So this is one way of handling it. Or if you are familiar with, say, metta meditation, probably you can do a little bit of metta, so that you are settling yourself, calming down yourself, less agitation, and now mind is relaxed. Then slowly look at breathing. Because if you immediately look at breathing, sometimes, these are only for the beginners. For the others, it would be quite easier, one can do it. But for the beginners, it would be difficult. Sometimes the breathing itself is a subtle process, and you are unnecessarily putting your hand, unnecessary amount of energy you are using, so the mind get distracted and you become restless. And sometimes you become sort of even anxious. What's going to happen next? I am not going to be successful. This is not the practice for me. So kind of say negative thoughts even can arise because you are struggling. If you are putting unnecessary strong effort, it's a cause for restlessness. So allow breathing to happen. I mean, there is no big deal. Body knows how to breathe. So your intention or your duty is to simply be with it, calm down, be with it. Or even another option is you can recognize where the clothes are touching your body. So slowly you recognize, because everyone is with clothing and you can see where they are touching. So slowly it's kind of strategically we have to restrain the mind, bring our attention back to the body. And after that, probably you can recognize they are maybe rising and falling. Not immediately going to breathing, maybe rising and falling. So it is a smooth process. Gradually you can switch from touch sensations of the clothes to rising and falling of the abdomen. Then you are being with rising and falling for some time. Then if you want, you can switch to breathing and see if it is necessary. Otherwise, if you are quite successful in rising and falling, you can continue in that. No need to even switch to Anapanasati. So these are all beginners' obstacles we all have to go through. I can remember I myself went through many issues. I was forcefully breathing and I was trying to maintain my attention exactly at the nostril, and I couldn't even sleep for many days. Too much effort. I still can remember, end up with really messing up the whole thing. Later I understood, so I am unnecessary effort I am putting. So let the body breathe naturally. So it's a kind of a beautiful balance that we need to recognize. So it won't come immediately. If you are too enthusiastic, it's a reason for failure. What to do? So slowly we need to recognize, okay, let the body breathe. I am just witnessing the whole process. Nothing to worry. Let him breathe. I can simply watch. So that beautiful balance is something we need to recognize. Yeah.
Report number 3. Dear Venerable Bhante, being on intense meditation for the last 4 months, I still mostly find a lively thought activity, and especially in the last days, thoughts were very strong and I found a lot of mind wandering. When I use breath or feet sensations as the primary object, it sometimes feels like working against the thoughts when putting the mind immediately back to the breath. This seems tiring and exhausting, and mind does not calm down often. I sometimes find it easier to watch the thoughts come and go, at times parallel to an awareness of breath or walking. During this, it's often harder to tell if I am still present with watching the thoughts or if the mind has wandered off with the thoughts. Is this a proper way to practice, and how can I distinguish clearer between watching thoughts and wandering off with the thoughts? And in these times, with stronger thoughts activity, when thoughts eventually calm down, I notice often a quick shift to sleepiness or falling asleep. How to face this? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's your question. So basically, recognize now when I am talking, this is I am talking. Then assume that someone else is talking just next to me. Assume that someone else is talking outside the room. Another person talking maybe outside the fence, outside the road. There's a significant difference. So likewise, so even though thoughts are there at the beginning, it's very much like we are fully in it and we are fully lost in thinking, overthinking. So that is very much like I am talking. So I am endlessly talking like that. Maybe someone else is talking just next to me. Still I can listen. I am not talking, but he is talking very closer to me. That's another situation. So that is very much like thinking is going on, but you have a little distance. You are mindful, and still you are not promoting talking, you are not promoting thinking, but you can simply step back and watch. So if you are continuing like this, so this person who is talking, thinking, may go far and far. So slowly it goes to the background and ultimately disappear. So this is how typically happens within the mind. So internally, initially what happens is we are participating in thinking. I am promoting thinking, I delight in thinking, and I am intentionally participate, and I promote, I have some happiness in it. Ultimately I lose my control. So mind is continuously thinking. I can't stop it. I know that it's utter nonsense, it is thinking, but I can't stop it. So that is the situation where, say, rumination and all that proliferation, that is the line that we are talking, where we have become very much like a victim of the whole thinking process, where we can't stop thinking. Now another situation is, yes, I am intentional thinking, but under my supervision. Thinking is there. Say, assume that you need to plan your trip to go back. So you need to do a little bit of planning. Yeah, you need a little bit of thinking. Fine. But not endless thinking. So at that time we are using this beautiful quality or skill we have as human beings, the capacity to think wisely. So we can use it. But assume that you planned that properly. Now done. Now we need to keep quiet. Again come back to ourselves and rest and keep quiet, so that that thinking very much has gone very far. It is now almost like background. No thinking at all. Something like that. So this is the kind of a skill that we are trying to develop. So the point is, immediately we can't do this because the thoughts arising in the mind are quite cheaty and temptful and delightful sometimes. So when we are trying to look at them, unknowingly we being trapped in it, we being driven to that, or we being pulled to that. So ultimately we are participating, we are part of thinking. So what we do is actually we are practicing Kaya-nupassana instead. So we are trying to be aware of the bodily activities. Walking, sitting, lying down, maybe breathing, rising and falling. All these are related to the body. So that we are learning another kind of a special skill. So while these processes are happening, there's a possibility of being aware of them without interrupting them. This is a separate skill that we are recognizing. So as I sometimes say you recognize certain processions going on the road. They are laughing, they are talking, and they are playing various dramas and singing and dancing. But I am just a spectator, an outsider. I can simply watch how they are doing, but I am not going to join with them. I am just an outsider. So they are simply doing the procession, perahara, the procession, and I am, as an outsider, I can simply watch that. Something like that. So later, as we continue either breathing or rising and falling or just being aware of the posture, the bodily posture, so I am learning a kind of a skill. So how I can disassociate from this whatever the action going on, rather than being a participant in that. How can I be a witness of that? So this is a separate skill that I need to develop. So very much like a monitoring process that we are developing within ourselves. So wherever I go, whatever I do, now this monitoring process is very much activated. So it is continuing. I am walking, okay, the monitoring process is working. The body is walking, I am watching. I am eating, the monitoring process is there. I know I am eating. I am sitting, I know that body is sitting. The various sensations are there, I can recognize them. So likewise, once this skill is available, now probably you can see, okay, what are the thoughts going on? It naturally usually happen. So I don't need to purposely say that, okay, 1 week I practice Kaya-nupassana, another second week I practice Vedana-nupassana, third week I practice Chitta-nupassana. So it is not the situation. Rather, say, let me practice Kaya-nupassana, the body awareness, developing of the bodily activities. So as I am thoroughing in that, as I am more conversant in that, so naturally mind might prefer to look at them from the feeling point of view. Rather than looking at various sensations, okay, I am recognizing, okay, some of them are equanimous, some of them are pleasurable, some of them are painful. In a way, I am simplifying my practice. Previously, there are many sensations, different kinds of sensations. Maybe hardness, maybe softness, maybe smoothness, maybe lightness, heaviness, heat, cold, vibrations, movements, many things are there. Now I am simplifying it, either pleasurable, painful, equanimous. Maybe later I am looking at, so what are the thoughts going on? At the moment for a painful feeling, maybe I have a little bit of anger. I have a little bit of a resentment. I have a little bit of a, dislike. Or maybe a pleasurable feeling. I have a little bit of desire. It promotes a little bit of thinking. So I am now capable of even looking at different thoughts. So I feel it's a kind of a gradual progress where we are learning from the ground, that is the body, and that is a skill. And once that skill is available, so the progress will be quite natural. So without your intentional ignition or intentional initiation of Chittanupassana, you are doing Chittanupassana. Very much like, so say you start with Kayanupassana, say you went to a walking path and you start with left, right, or lifting, moving and all these things, the bodily activities. So now the mind calms down, relax, and you are able to recognize all sensations. And while going through that, say at one time you recognize, okay, there are certain thoughts going on in the mind, and you step back and watch those thoughts. Since you are already establishing mindfulness, those thoughts are now very much like distant thoughts. They are not I talk. They are not he talk just next to me. He is just talking outside the room, something like that. So you can easily recognize there's a significant distance between thoughts and yourself. You are in a kind of a safe position where you are not being involved in that thinking. Rather, it's kind of thoughts are going on like background thoughts, and you recognize, okay, they are maybe lustful thoughts, there are maybe angry thoughts, there are maybe jealousy thoughts. You can even recognize their tone, their quality and all these things. So the moment that you recognize them like that, so that means you are not a victim of that, not at all. So that they become weaker and weaker further. Ultimately they go outside the Kalalgoda, now they are on the road. So we don't need to bother. So they are very much, we are safe here. Something like that. So your mind then become completely quiet. So the body walks, various sensations are there, but mind is quiet. So it's a very beautiful practice. It is not that immediately we are trying to confront thinking. Rather, this gradual progress in mindfulness, awareness, and even the clear comprehension. Say different sensations are there, you are capable of clearly comprehending these different sensations. So that is a necessary thing. It is not that you are superficially keeping your attention. Rather, you can pinpoint, you can distinctly recognize this is a painful feeling, this is a pleasurable feeling, this is an equanimous feeling. So likewise, you can recognize them properly. So that means you have that penetrative ability in the mind now developed, what we call as the sampajana, where the clear comprehension. So that is why Buddha emphasized in Anapanasati Sutta. So once one have proper mindfulness, clear mindfulness, as well as clear comprehension, then you are capable of doing Chittanupassana. So as we continue Kayanupassana, so these skills are uplifted, they are sharpened, and you reach this necessary amount of necessary level, automatically now you can handle thoughts. So it won't be a big deal then. So therefore, on the other hand, as you continue this path, so these skills become available to you. Now you don't need to start from the scratch. Now you may have the ability even to directly watch the mind. Sometimes it would be difficult at the very beginning, but later, so you have that capacity already available. No need to go from the bottom, go from the scratch. Immediately you can see the thoughts, and you are not getting deluded by that. You are not being driven by that. You can see that whether are we getting deluded by that, I am participating in that, I am overthinking, or as a result of that, as a result of my way of looking at them, they become weaker and weaker. So that means if they become weaker and weaker, so that means the skill is available now. You don't need to go back to the basics. already certain amount of skill being developed because of the hard practice, so that you can immediately handle this, the Chittanupassana. So there's no harm. So as you are continuing the path, always it is not necessary to go to basics. But the usual practice is that, by the way, the beginner's mind. So that you start with the basics, maybe left, right, or rising and falling, or in breath, out breath, a little bit of sharpening, so that you are confident. Later, once you are confident, no need. I mean, you can even ask the mind to think if you want. I am not that afraid of that. That is where what we call as the mindfulness has come to the power level, sati bala. So in the sati bala, there are different levels that Buddha described. So these are in a way kind of a skill what we are developing. Say mindfulness as a very initial stage, we can say very much like a bare attention. Then we come to a level, mindfulness as a faculty, sati indriya, where okay, today my mindfulness is really good. Every activity I am being mindful. So you recognize it as in a quality, in a skill. Then you reach the sati bala, the power of mindfulness, where now you don't even scare even when the mind is thinking. Mind has become a little bit of, not mindful, but you know how to handle it, how to tackle it. Step back and you are quite confident, because now you have your own hands-on experience. You are not a beginner, so that even when the mind is unmindful, you are not that being shocked about it, or you are not being disturbed about it. So that's why typically it is called pamade na kampatiti sati balang. Even when the mind is unmindful, negligent, or heedless, still you are not very much like disturbed from that, because immediately when I look at it, it may calm down, it may relax, it may be tamed. So you have your own confidence within your own practice. So it's kind of a gradual progress. So I think you can continue as you do, so it won't be an issue. If you lose everything, again breath is available. Till you die, breath is available. Sure about it. Right.
The second part going from... Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And the second part of the question, when it goes from heavy thinking and agitation quickly to drowsiness when the thinking stops, and sleepiness, how to face
can
that?
Happen. No, the thing is, now typically, so how our minds are being awake, either because of the excitement, because of the agitation, because of various doubts. Say if you have doubts about another person, whether he did that or whether she did that, or various doubts, you can't even sleep. So the hindrances actually, except the Thinamidda, the middle one, Srotantopa, all the other four are capable of maintaining the mind awake, but restless, but with defilements. But the moment we are able to overcome those defilements, overcome those hindrances, then we being caught to the middle one, the Srotantopa. So when mind completely calms down, so we can't maintain awareness because no activity to the mind. So you need to watch various sensations, true, but not enough, no agitation at all. So it's very, very tranquil, very smooth. So the mind find is boring. So that is the practice. If you are again and again agitating the mind, that is not the solution either. You may fall asleep, doesn't matter. Next time you see, okay, today I fall asleep, so mind become very refined, very subtle, very quiet. At that moment I couldn't handle it. My mind is not yet sensitive like that. So I couldn't maintain that sensitivity or very, very subtle stage. I fall asleep. Still I am not capable of doing that. Doesn't matter. Let me continue. Next day, you are going a little bit more. Next day, a little bit more. Something like that. So later, you are even capable, without a thought, without any activity, still awake. It's a kind of a skill that we need to develop. So rather than we get up immediately thinking that I am going to fall asleep, I become drowsy, so let me fall asleep, fine. But tomorrow or next sitting, I am going to handle it somehow. Trial and error. Yeah.
Report number 4. Thero Saranai, Garu Swamin Vahansa. Walking meditation. Started the meditation with the thought, here I am now. Focused the mind on feet. Felt the roughness and hardness of the mat and was able to walk to the end of the mat and turned with 4 steps mindfully. Time to time, thoughts came and went. I was happy as I felt the sensations very clearly and the walking was very comfortable. Meditated for about 15 to 20 minutes. Sitting meditation. Sat with the thought, here I am now. Listened to the sounds in the environment. Gradually took my focus to the body, the sitting posture of me. Brought my focus to the nostrils, searching for the breath. I did not feel the breath, but rising and falling of chest and shoulders were prominent. Spent some time focusing on it with the thought, breathe in and breathe out. After a few minutes, I think I fell asleep. After some time, I realized I was asleep and started focusing on the breath. A thought or two came, but was able to focus again on the breath. For the second time also, a small period of darkness without any awareness, within bracket, which I think falling asleep, experienced. Awareness came back with the thought of I fell asleep again. There were about 4 to 5 cycles like this. Also, I felt my body slightly bent and felt slight pain on the spine. I was able to sit for about 30 to 40 minutes without changing the posture. Garu Swamin Vahansa, please explain how to improve the meditation. Thank you. Much merits.
Any report on walking on the same yogi? No.
First I read the walking meditation.
Repeat the walking part.
Okay. Walking meditation. Started the meditation with the thought, here I am now. Focused the mind on feet. Felt the roughness and hardness of the mat and was able to walk to the end of the mat and turned with 4 steps mindfully. Time to time thoughts came and went. I was happy as I felt the sensations very clearly and the walking was very comfortable. Meditated for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, to grow, you need to further enhance that. So, say for example, now you are capable of doing that for 15 to 20 minutes, try to make it 25, 30, 35. So likewise, you are being familiar with it. So don't stop at 20 minutes walking, for example, because you can further walk. No harm in walking, even 1 hour. You do a very mindful and usual, your natural, familiar type of walking. Don't do it in a more slow motion manner. Rather maintain your natural pace, so that you won't feel tiresome. Rather you feel, I can continue even for 1 hour. You don't feel much of agitated or you don't feel tired, because it's a natural walk that you are, natural style, natural pace that you are maintaining. So likewise try to enhance it, so that you are not just 4 steps, maybe 5 steps, maybe 10 steps, 15 steps. So likewise kind of a gradual increment. So that is where you need to grow. So later you feel confident, I can walk any distance mindfully, no restriction. I am now capable of mindfully walking any long, any cycles. So like that, the confidence has to develop. So now it's a matter of enhancing that.
Report number 5. Dear Bhante, I recently listened to one of your sermons, Vattupama Sutta, which was very insightful. I seek my own mind and ask myself, have I ever generated such type of thoughts? As a result of trying to have a purified mind and have had preeti and passaddhi, it's very rarely such heavy and unpurified thoughts have crossed my mind. But I come across few situations where manaya, pride, has been invading the mind and how I have behaved under the sheer curtain of ignorance. Thus, I made a mind not to have a watch on the mind, on thoughts, and within this week, I found myself identifying the akusalaya, the unpurified thought, right there as it arised, which is a point of victory. I consider looking forward to dive deep into the mind gradually through practice. Theruvan Saranai.
Yeah, good. So basically, at the beginning, there are various, say, defilements, we can say, hindrances, unwholesome thoughts. And that is why, even if you can remember the Dhammanupassana, the first section is called Nivarana Pabbha. So you are recognizing your various defilements or hindrances going on. But they are not your defilements now. So they are mere hindrances. Maybe lust, maybe hatred, maybe sloth and torpor, maybe restlessness, maybe doubts. Many things are there. But you have the capacity to recognize them. You are not participating in that. You are not promoting them. You are not a victim of them. But they are there. But as a result of your practice, now they become slowly decreased, weakened, ultimately disappear. And later, now you are shifting to another level, that is the Bojjhanga, enlightenment factors. Instead of hindrances, now you are developing enlightenment factors. Say, Sati, Dhammavichaya, Viriya, Piti, Passadhi, Samadhi, Upekka. Maybe a little bit of mindfulness, maybe with a relaxed awareness, and maybe inquiring quality, Dhammavichaya. And you are maintaining a natural effort, not striving, but kind of a smooth effort. As a result of that, okay, now a little bit of joy arises. You are no more struggling. You are maintaining it. So you are becoming more and more successful. So the joy arises, tranquility arises. And now you can step back and watch equanimity arise. So likewise, so the practice becomes somewhat smoother, rather than it become kind of a striving type of practice, struggling kind of practice. So I feel that you are doing correct. So various hindrances are there, true, but you are no more a victim of those hindrances. You can watch them. They are true, but they are not my thoughts or they are not my hindrances. They are hindrance. They are lust. They are anger. They are sloth and torpor, whatever it is. So likewise, you are looking at them objectively now, rather than you become a subjective experiencer. Now you are looking at them as an objective point of view. So I think you are doing well. So anyway, if you want to discuss further, you can participate in the discussion. Otherwise, I think it's all right.
Just received something. I think he's quoting something from page 8, Satipatthana, the direct path to realization.
Can you repeat, start?
I think this yogi is referring to page 8 of Satipatthana.
Right. No, he's going to participate, don't worry. The monkey mind, now he's going to a human mind.
The direct path to realization.
Right.
He's just quoting, I suppose. In this way, in regards to the mind, he abides contemplating the mind internally and externally. What does mean by externally?
Yeah. So there are actually two ways of defining it. So the most appropriate and most practical way is that after you recognize your own thoughts, the way you think and how you getting sometimes entangled. So very much like you are understanding your own inner nature about your mentalities. So later you can apply the same to another person. Oh, he also thinking like this. He also may have doubts like this. He may have the sensual desires like this. He may be angry like this at this situation. Because at that moment, at that situation, you yourself went through these kinds of thoughts. So they're very much like an inferential knowledge that we are talking in the Bahiddha. Iti ajjattang va kaye or chitte chittanupassee viharati iti bahiddha va chitte chittanupassee viharati. So it's a very much like an inferential knowledge. So you can read another person. It is not through, parasitta vijananana. It is not through a very higher psychic power. Rather, inferentially you can recognize, okay, this particular person may be going through these kinds of thoughts now. Because you yourself have done a great amount of introspection. You understood your own thoughts, how your mind behaves. So the same mind is operating in another person as well. That is also a human mind. He too thinking like the same thing. So your guess, your inferential knowledge is fairly true, fairly correct. So this is how typically we understand. So that is how actually the mindfulness helps to develop the relationships. interrelationships are being developed, you can maintain a relationship because you know you can read another person. You can read another one's emotions, what we call as emotional literacy, because you recognize your own emotions, your own thoughts. You are an observer of that for a long time. The same practice, same skill, now you can apply to another person. Mostly you are correct. You can see maybe if he's angry, even through the body, the facial expressions, you can immediately recognize. So likewise, many things are there. So the Bahidha, that is the most practical explanation. There's another explanation that is also valid, where, say, whatever you are experiencing in the current moment within yourself become internal. Everything else, either past or future or outside to someone else, everything become external. That's another explanation, another definition we can say. But the previous one is more practical, where as a result of your own practice, now you have the capacity to even look at another person and see his own bodily processes, expressions, feelings, and even thoughts. So that is what mentioned in the Bahiddhava Chitte Chittanupasse Viharati. Yeah. So if you have any more questions, we can spend few more minutes, or else we can wind up the session. You have a question?
When you understand your own mind, you develop a certain amount of karunava, compassion towards the other person, because you know that these type of defilements arise in other person's mind also.
Correct.
They're suffering from that.
Correct.
And you have dealt with it, you know, from your own practice.
Correct.
So immense amount of karuna can be generated as well, right?
Possible. But the thing is, we need to be a little balanced. So, we can't be fully emotional. The thing is, you know your own situation. I went through this much of suffering. My mind was like a, complete, like a monkey mind. But how about another person who is now going through the same thing? But a certain amount of limitation is still there. He too has to practice. So I can motivate him for practicing and I can guide him, that is good. But at the same time, I should not become overwhelmed by the emotional type of thing. Sometimes, that's why typically we say the karuna and the panya has to be fairly balanced. The compassion and the wisdom has to be balanced, otherwise we lose our balance. So while we can be compassionate without losing our balance. So that is, it's necessary to be sensitive. At the same time, it is necessary to be mindful. So what are our own limitations? What is the extent that I can become more compassionate? It doesn't mean I am becoming a passive person, but when it is necessary, then only I am participating. Otherwise, I mind my own business. So the kind of a balance that we need. We can't be perfect immediately. Sometimes we go wrong. Sometimes when it is necessary, I didn't help. And sometimes when it is unnecessary, I am trying to help. So these are the two extremes that we go through. And later we understand, okay, maybe I can ask from him. Do you really need the help? Are you in help? Do you need? Are you all right? So kind of very diplomatically we are handling the situation without interrupting, because sometimes people need some seclusion to overcome their problems and they need to become a little matured to understand our participation. So likewise, it is difficult sometimes. We can't come up with the immediate generalized rule, okay, at this time I should participate. Very difficult to say like that. Anyway, as you said, we can probably carefully observing another person and read him. What are the emotions? Is he really in the need of my help? Or is it the proper time to help? Something like that we can start feeling about it. Till that I have to wait. Wait and see. Yeah, that's another. Please come forward if you possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
With regard to this internal and external regarding the mind, the same thing is repeated for body and feeling as well.
Yes. Same thing.
Is it possible to explain a bit of...
Very same. Say during a particular setup, say you feel happy. So obviously another person also may be happy on the same kind of a scenario, same kind of a situation. So likewise, in a particular setup, you feel unhappy. So you recognize how these feelings are arising. You see what are the conditions promoting that feelings. Say someone is abusing you, blaming you, belittling you, so you feel uncomfortable, you feel depressed, so it's quite obvious. So when another person is doing that to another person, complete external, then you can recognize what would be his feelings. So very similar. So we as human beings, we are, sharing the common nature, very much like. That's why ultimately, so the Buddha say, so we lose this internal external. It is not that we need to maintain a huge demarcation between internal and external. Rather, ultimately we use, either internal or either external, they are merely feelings. So Buddha mentioned in the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, what's that? Yecheva ajjattika yacha ajjattika patavi dhatu yecha bahira patavi dhatu revesa. Whatever the internal, what you define as the internal earth element, whatever the external earth element, they are merely earth element. So likewise, so the internal external are initial difference, initial distinction, but later you find it's not necessary. So the understanding of internal external does not mean that we are maintaining a kind of a separatedness, kind of separation. It doesn't promote separation. Instead, we find the commonality, what is common in us. So at this particular situation, I feel angry. So he also feels angry. So I find the kind of we are sharing the same kind of a nature. So that you lose that personality in a way. So another person also in the same way. So either internal feeling or external feeling, they are merely feelings. They depend on these conditions. They are merely feelings. So likewise, internal external does not mean that I am continuously maintaining that distinction. Rather, ultimately I lose internal external. So that's the beauty. Very interesting. Yeah. Okay, I think we have spent a fair amount of time. I thought I did something as an excuse for the being late. So maybe I'll take a break for almost 1.5, and then we'll start the Dhamma sermon at 4:30. 4:30 Dhamma sermon today. Okay. Thank you very much for participation.